Well, good morning, everybody. To get us started today, I wanted to take a look at three different satellite animations. And the first one, I want you to focus right over here. I'm only using Goes West. There are other satellites that have better imagery over here, but I wanted you to see the extent of the smoke and ash plume that came from the volcanic eruption in Russia. Now, this happened on Tuesday, and we can see again the extent of this. I do not yet know if this is going to have an impact on the upcoming weather and climate patterns. That's kind of yet to be determined. Just to put this in perspective, this volcanic eruption was not as large as the Tonga eruption that happened a year ago, January. But just something we'll be thinking about and watching here, okay? So this was yesterday. Now, the second satellite animation, this is just as the sun was rising here in the central part of the United States. And we're going to go back to yesterday and take a look at what that snowpack looked like. Because temperatures yesterday were hot. I mean, we were deep into the upper 80s and 90s here in parts of the northern plains. But it's interesting to see that while the snow was melting, the total snow area didn't change too much yesterday on satellite. It's kind of amazing to be able to pick out some of the water features in here through here as well. And it's just neat to be able to see one other feature. This was the smoke coming off of the fire here in northern Nebraska. That smoke plume extended, throughout much of South Dakota. The last thing I want to show you, this was just kind of interesting this morning. I zoomed in here on parts of the Midwest, and as the sun was rising, it was neat to be able to see all the jet contrail moving in the flow. So that, again, is just jet condensation trail there. I just thought you might find that fascinating. Okay, today, the risks. Right now, we've got red flag warnings that stretch from New Mexico through Colorado, Kansas, Nebraska, Iowa, Wisconsin, Illinois, Michigan, Indiana. Also here in parts of kind of New England. To the north of this, we've got our hydrologic outlook. So this is all about flooding due to snowmelt. Same here. And an area we're going to spend some time today talking about would be this section of Idaho getting into Montana that's going to be seeing the risk of a snowstorm, possibly several inches of snow coming through here. Cold on the backside of this, you can already see the frost advisories that are out for the Willamette Valley and through this area. And this system that's going to emerge later this week, after having such warm conditions throughout the big section of the United States, is going to bring through kind of a colder rain, and we're going to take a look at that as well. But today, it's all about the transport of heat on the backside of this high pressure cell. So very strong winds coming through this area and also throughout the Intermountain West. And what it's going to do to the temperatures is send them back up today, again, deep into the 80s here. So just for perspective, this is like 27 to 30 degrees above average. But you can already see the colder air that is moving through parts of the Pacific Northwest. As we go from Wednesday into Thursday, that colder air is now sitting over Montana and the northern plains, where we're going to watch for some snow in Montana throughout the day on Thursday. So by Friday, getting into Saturday, you can see the warmer air continues to migrate to the east, but we're going to watch a pretty sizable front coming through the backside here of this cyclone. And what I'm concerned about is how this low is going to sit, and spin here over parts of the Great Lakes later on this weekend. And what that's going to do on Sunday is usher in some pretty cold temperatures. We'll take a look at the 7-day frost map in just a few seconds here. And as we go forward, this is how things shape up on Monday and Tuesday, so another kind of rebound in temperatures for next week. So a couple of maps here to kind of summarize this. Let's go here first. This is the 7-day total accumulated growing degree day units. So again, we're just adding up the temperatures each day and kind of summarizing for how many GDDs we're going to get from now through the next 7 days. And let's go back and take a look at that frost map. Here it is. What I am concerned about is that when we get into early next weekend, as this low curls up into this area, I know right now that this goes all the way out to next Tuesday morning, that the frost risk is primarily being kept here, closer to I-80. I just cannot rule out the potential for maybe the frost area to get as far south as I-70. Right now, there's no indications. The models aren't doing it, but sometimes these situations, as these lows slow down and spin over the Great Lakes, can push that frost farther to the south. So just something I want to be watching at this point. And as it stands, this is your next 7 days of frost risk. Okay, let's come back now to the precipitation side of this beginning at 8 o'clock this morning. Two features to watch. One is a low that is being cut off underneath this broad ridge that's opening up the warmth to the north. We're going to watch that low go from Louisiana, Mississippi through parts of the Carolinas and Mid-Atlantic, and then we're going to keep a close eye on this system that's coming through the Pacific Northwest. So as we play through the day on Wednesday, both systems are kind of gathering some strength. And we're going to watch this low curl up. Wide open warmth and dry conditions here, but take a look at what's already coming out tonight into Montana. We're expecting quite a bit of snow out of this system here as heavier rains begin to hit parts of the south. So here's the snow spreading. We're going to watch that push through Montana into southern Saskatchewan and Manitoba. A cold rain out ahead of this in parts of the Red River of the north, so this is going to be on top of that snow. Rain coming through parts of South Dakota as well. And you can see the system down here curling into precipitation into Kentucky, Tennessee, out of Georgia, South Carolina, North Carolina. And then as we work our way into Friday morning, a couple things are going to happen. We're going to watch some snow moving through parts of Colorado into Wyoming. And then we're going to watch kind of a colder rain begin to spread here. And then by the time we get into Friday night, I just want you to stay aware in this region here. This is opening up a nice warm sector, and we expect the atmosphere to destabilize in here as this main frontal boundary pushes to the north. Scattered, isolated, severe threat into this area on Friday. We put that in a report this morning. Okay, from here, let's do both models, the GFS left, European right. We've seen through about this point, so you notice that both models are picking up on the heavy snow potential here, the scattered rain and storms over the southeast. And so what we're going to be concerned about is that by the time we get into this weekend, this is Saturday, there's going to be some cold air coming with this rain. So there's a lot of freshly planted crop in this area that's going to get kind of a colder rain coming through. This is now getting into Saturday midday, and then that front tries to push through as we go into the morning on Sunday. So you can see it here. The models are not in agreement on this snow, and this is what happens in April. To predict snow is very difficult, and so I just want to be aware that the GFS is most aggressive on dipping the snow pretty far south into Iowa, not in the European model right now. Okay, so that is not here, and we need to watch these two features play out. This is still several days away from us, but we have to watch it kind of take shape. Now, as the low continues to spread over parts of Ontario, we're going to watch for some snow on the back side of this coming into the Great Lakes. And you do notice here kind of the warm sector being replaced in New England with some colder rain as this kind of pushes through. While this is going on, the next storm system's coming into the Pacific Northwest. So you can see this is what I'm worried about here as we get through the day on Monday into early Tuesday. We're going to have to watch out for the potential for some snow. Now, what happens beyond next Tuesday is not, I'm going to show it to you, but I want you to know that this forecast is going to evolve a lot. And what is happening here is that low that's coming into the Pacific Northwest next Monday into Tuesday could eject into the plains as well. And there are some indications that it has a similar look to the one we're dealing with at the end of this week and this weekend, but maybe has more cold air to use to bring snow right here over parts of North Dakota. And that's one of the things I'm worried about, getting out there into that longer outlook. What this also does is brings another front with some cooler weather through the midsection of the country and more rain. And then also, notice you're going to have storms here. We just see it again happening. So this seems to be the new pattern that we've kind of adopted here. And I think it's mostly driven, as we talked about on Monday night, by the cold ocean temperatures that are off the West Coast. So since we kind of focused on that snow, I want to go show you the next 7 days of total accumulated snowfall. So this is out of the European model. We're just going to stop it at 7 days because I told you beyond that, I don't have a lot of confidence in where the next two systems following are going to go. So this is what we've got from the European. My main focus, I think, is just on the heavy snows that are right in through this area, getting into southern Saskatchewan, and of course on the northern side of this in Ontario, very heavy snow. But this is not uncommon for this area in April. So take a look at the Great Lakes as well. Now the GFS is shown here. So European solution, GFS. Very, very different solutions. Remember the GFS bringing much more snow farther to the south. Really quickly here, I do want to show you the total precipitation. And just take note that there's going to be kind of a larger area in through here that doesn't see much out of these next two systems that are coming through. So there is still drier conditions coming for a lot of folks. But take a look at where the pattern will be by April 22nd. That's 10 days from now. And during that time period, it's quite flat, no major indications. But as we go later into April, the atmosphere really wants to send us back to something that dips troughs in the west. And this could make things pretty stormy and unsettled going into the late April, early May time frame. So we need to watch that carefully. Here's some other evidence. We saw a big transition in the latest model runs, shoving the jet stream much farther out into the North Pacific and a subtropical branch that takes over. And that particular configuration, where there's no big ridges across the west, tends to really ignite things in the midsection of the country. And why I care so much about that is because where we have drought anchored right now, right here in the plains, right in this area where the cursor is, we're starting to see the models in week 2 get a little more confident, maybe returning more moisture to that area. It is not drought busting, but it's a signal that I got to keep watching. Last couple things. Show you the temperature pattern. So we're quite warm now, but we tend to go back over toward this pattern that's going to be cooler in the west, warmer in the central and southern plains, near normal in the eastern Corn Belt. But the models just want to keep that colder air anchored over the northern plains as we work our way out here to the day 5 through 10 time period. Now beyond that, remember, to be cooler than average in late April and early May, this is not, I don't see this right now as a frost threat. If that changes, I will let you know, but right now I don't. It's just a few degrees colder than normal. It's that flatter pattern we were just talking about here, not showing a full breakaway into warmth. I would also make the comment that because of spring volatility and forecasting, I don't feel too settled on what the week 2 pattern even fully is right now. So we need to live this, I think, 1 week at a time. One of the biggest drivers of this is that we're watching a developing El Nino while we still have a negative PDO. And these two things are often in contrast with one another. And I believe they're heavily influencing the pattern this spring, the PDO especially. But as we get into summer, this El Nino could be the dominant teleconnection. I wrote that as my feature story in today's report, so be sure to take a look at it. Lastly, no overall changes for South America except that the models trended wetter in this part of central Brazil, including Mato Grosso, Parna, Sao Paulo, Minas Gerais, these regions in through here. Still no strong signal that we're worried about the monsoon shutting down too early, but it is dry along the Parna River Basin and through here, which continues to be a problem for Rio Grande do Sul, Uruguay, and the states that surround this here, or the provinces, that surround the Parna River. So let's keep watching it. Have a good rest of your day, and we'll talk tomorrow. Thanks.